I do.
If there's a topic or something within the chat you want to address, feel free. We'll
No
go.
problem.
Hey everybody, thanks for being on the rad stream with the man, the myth, the legend, Terrence Popp. We're going to talk about all things red pill, MGTOW, men, strong men, weak men, and what men need to do to survive where they're at today in their current state. So, Terrence, what are your thoughts on the current state of masculinity, especially what we're seeing now?
I've watched it disintegrate since roughly the late 90s. I came into the Army in 86, and I experienced the Army the way it should be run for the most part, and I just watched it go to shit ever since. And it's these, I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of men out there who are the product of single mothers, and they literally get to the age of 18 and they got their manhood by default. There's like no rite of passage.
Right.
No man was in their life to help them along, to teach them like the serious shit that will impact the rest of his life. I mean, I grew up, my mother was grew up in a single mother home. She was poor, and she was on welfare up until I got to 8th grade. And by the time I graduated, I had all of this bullshit in my head, how women are, what women want. And then I'd go into the real world, and none of that fucking applied. And I got my ass fucking handed to me multiple times. You know, I mean, that's the men of today are, I mean, I refer to a lot of them as soy sexuals.
How'd you fix that, Pop? How did you find a father figure in your life? How did you reverse that trend and to where you are today?
I got divorced.
You have 86. You go on 86. You go in the military. You're a paratrooper. You're Green Beret. You're Ranger. You
did it all.
That takes a masculine dude. How did you get to that point where you, maybe it was your upbringing? I grew up in very humble and beginnings as well, and you decide to fight, right?
Well, so, at the end of 8th grade, you know, they came, and the coaches and stuff from high school came. They talked to all of the 8th grade boys about sports and stuff. And you know, I decided that I should probably play football, and I was way too small to play football, but I did it anyway because I didn't like what I was seeing in the mirror.
Yeah,
and it had to be changed. And if you radically want to change something in your life, it's going to require pain. And I walked into the fire.
You know, a lot of guys don't get that now, Pop, right? They don't understand that they can change everything just by that thought. Today's hive-minded thinking is literally causing the reversal of everything masculine.
Yes, it is. And it's getting to the point where they call you a toxic male for just being a dude. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, several months back, I was in a bar and these women were bitching about stuff, and I like sucked me in their conversation. I literally was like, "Listen, you're women. There's a reason why soap operas have existed since the radio, and I'm not that guy. I don't want to deal with that." And they're like, "Oh, you're just such a toxic man." Then I'm like, "Yeah, I am. Don't fucking include me in your horse shit. So just fuck off."
Yeah. Laid it down to Chinatown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem. You look at, I've got two boys that are 17 and 21, and what they're going through. And without a father that's pushing them, as myself, my dad was very, very strong on us boys. Just the amount of boys raised without a single mom today and where we're headed. I mean, can you imagine when I'm 75, you're 75, we've got these weak kids running the world.
It's going to be, it won't get to that point. It's going to devolve into utter pandemonium. There will be bloodshed, revolution, civil war, you name it. It just, listen, when you have a bunch of dudes that are that weak, there'll always be other dudes that are like, hey, I can capitalize on this. And what are they going to do?
Right.
And it just breeds turmoil and evil.
Right. If you are a man, you are toxic. What do you think about today's military versus your military you went in?
It's a joke. It really is. I mean, they medically retired me in 2018. I wanted to stay till 2020, but I'm glad that they punched me out early because it was just getting unbearable, and I would have got in trouble. Because I'm not taking horse shit, and I'm not a yes man. And I was getting a lot of trouble with my upper command because I'd be like, listen, are you asking me this because you want to hear a certain answer? Or are you asking me these questions because you want me to tell the fucking truth?
Right.
Because I'll only tell you the truth and you might not fucking like it.
Right.
If you want somebody that's going to, put on knee pads and lick your tongue dart your asshole, I'm not it. It's not going to happen.
They're into pronouns.
No, I can barely remember a person's name. Like I usually give them it takes me forever to remember your name. I'll more than likely give you a nickname. Once you got the nickname, I will never forget you. But if you want me to have certain rules of how I speak to you, like you have to call me her, they, him, what, I'm not doing it. I'm like, okay, shimp, you're a she, him person, or a him, she. That I don't give a shit. And they yelled at me, and I'm like, listen, I'm sorry. I'm that guy that you put behind glass that says break in case of war. I'm not the guy I call out for touchy feely and horse shit. It's not happening.
Right. So there's a comment in here that says that from a 26-year-old guy, what kind of advice would you give for a 26-year-old today?
If you're 26, I'll tell you this. Focus on yourself. Make as much money as you fucking can. Live a great life. And when it's over, slide into your grave while yelling, what a ride. None of that happens if you get married and are hammered with kids and you have all that fucking horse shit. I mean, you don't get me wrong. You can still, if you find the right dynamic, it could work out for you. But the way the West is now, women are rewarded for acting catty and stupid and weak. And we just keep coddling them. And they literally look in our faces and go, hey, we don't need you. I don't need a man. Anything you can do, I can do better. And yet men are still stepping up like, oh, yeah, I'll support you. But listen, do your own fucking thing. Make yourself the priority. Right. Women will always come. You'll come across women no matter what. But the ones that you want to have with you are the ones that'll parallel your course, not block you or hold you back. And those are hard to find.
Right. What would you tell a guy that's 18 just coming out of high school?
Keep your dick in your pants because 18 to 22 is like a critically dangerous window for men because they're dick thinking. And if you ever wonder where you got that saying, I need that like a hole in the head, right. Well, there you go. Because the only thing that comes out of that little hole on the little head is bad decisions, and they'll fuck you up for it.
Right.
So keep that shit under control.
What about the guy right now that's 45 that just is told his wife is divorcing him?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, if you're getting divorced, I'm sorry. 80% of the divorces now are filed by women. 90% if the woman is college educated. That's another study. I have to get up to speed on it. But, yeah, I mean, listen, you can't dance and be a clown. It's not your job to make other people fucking happy. The only one that makes you happy is yourself.
Right.
So if she's not happy, then just, give her a smack on the ass and say, go find your happiness and fucking forget her. Get on with your life and do great things. I can almost guarantee you those women don't usually have that happy ending they want or the next chapter of their life. There's an insane amount of women out there who are in their 40s, early 50s, late 30s who divorced good men. I mean, sure, they weren't, top of the picking order, but they're still good dudes.
Right.
And now that they're stuck in box wine and catland, and they bought their own ticket, one-way trip there, and I have no sympathy for them whatsoever.
Right. Right. You know, a lot of guys they'll get divorced, and then within 3 months they got a new girlfriend. I see it all the time. They get remarried or they get move in, right? They haven't healed, they haven't understood the reality versus fantasy. And then there's the guys, very few of us can bounce back, right? We can take what we've lost and we can move and build a better life for us. And this is why we do these channels. And then there's the one guy that says he's lost everything, so he takes himself out.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
And there's guys that watch your channel, my channel, tons of channels. I got an email from a guy saying, I had made a video, a basic video, and he said, it saved my life. I'm sure you've gotten the same thing. How do we help guys, realize that being above ground is a better place to be? I mean,
I'm up to 425 dudes now that have come forward and said I kept them from killing themselves.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah, and one of the big things I do is, because most of the people I talk to are veterans or in the service, is you cannot survive in the service without developing that sick, twisted sense of humor, because you literally are you're juggling retards and idiots. It's insane. And you have to joke about it, or you will go crazy, or it'll break you. And then they get out of the service, and life, piles on them because, adulting sucks. And they forget that sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to help them reawaken that fucking sick, twisted sense of humor so they can laugh at this injustice and pain. Because guess what? I mean, a good deep belly laugh, that halts the devil. That'll stumble death. That it helps you bridge the gap of pain so you can drive on, man. Just that simple ability to find humor and laugh at all the stupid bullshit makes you a better person and does make you, mentally stronger.
Right. Absolutely.
That's what I'm doing.
The reason I decided to make a video back in 19 was to say, hey, if I could just help one other person, because somebody helped me, and I just want to give back. And I thought, men are worth it. We have been labeled assassins and toxic and this and that, and guys today, especially 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, it's even worse for them because they grew up in the pronoun parade, right? And
parade.
Just don't have any direction. How many kids today have been born in a divorced family? When I grew up, I remember in the 70s, early 80s, I had a friend whose parents divorced. It was like the weirdest thing because every other weekend he'd be gone, right? And I didn't grasp that because divorce it started just skyrocketing like in the 80s, right? So now you're seeing guys that are raised by single moms. The dad's not existent because the court stripped the dad, right? He's only 4 nights a month he gets to see him. That's nothing.
That's nothing. Yep.
So guys are finding channels like this. They're finding discussions and videos, and they literally have virtual fathers now.
Yeah. Listen, like I have said when we were talking earlier, is I am shocked that we don't have a barricaded gunman across the street from every single courthouse that covers divorce and family bullshit in the nation. It is so fucking unjust. I have no idea why there just hasn't been just one long raging firefight in front of these places, because they've been violating the constitutional rights of men since the 70s, and it's only getting worse.
Mm-hmm. Here in Utah, Pop, they've the legislator passed 50-50 custody, which is default if you're getting divorced now.
Good, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, 50-50, unless they pull out some.
No,
it's obviously the discretion of the judge, a beta male in a black robe. But yeah, I mean, if you can go back and look at the Duluth model, you can look at how they're trained and educated.
Don't get me started. The Duluth model. That is some horseshit right there.
Oh, absolutely. But there's a war. I mean, eventually, if you look at everything, what's going on in Europe, what's been happening for the last 30, 40 years, if they can remove the man, especially a strong man, it's servitude, right? And that's what they did. That's why I fought for so long to get my kids. It wasn't a matter of, to me, it wasn't money. It was like, my kids need a dad and a mom, and I'm going to be the best damn dad I could.
I gotcha. Yeah, I played that game too, man. I drove 570 miles one way twice a month for 5.5 years to hang out with my kids while I was in the service.
Right.
You know how hard that is? That's a paperwork parade right there. That was insane.
Jeez.
Well, I did it.
Yeah. You do what you can do. So what about the guys that are like, hey, I found this really great gal. She grew up Christian. Her mom and dad are solid. She wants a family. What are your thoughts on that?
If you're a dude north of 26, okay, then maybe you could start thinking that if you want to risk having a wife and a kid or kids. But if you're younger than that, you have no business playing around in that fucking arena because you are ill prepared.
Yep.
Yeah, you are going to get fucked up.
Today's young man who's been raised in social media and technology and video games, it ain't going to be easy. And the women that he likes, or the women he's dating, or the girls, have also been raised in this social media soup.
Yeah.
I don't see it working.
I mean, they did a big experiment in the 60s with the mice. You remember that?
Yep.
You hear about that one? And they literally give the mice a limited amount of space, unlimited water and food, and then just watch the pandemonium. And within, 3 or 4 generations, the male mice just said, fuck it, quit participating. They would groom themselves, go eat, and then that would be it. And the whole thing just fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was murder, cannibalism, all kinds of crazy shit going on in that enclosed society. And that's what's going to happen here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like cannibalism. Oh, Pop, aren't you getting a little medieval on us? Well, what do you think happens when you don't fucking eat for a month?
Right.
Yeah, that will happen, and if it gets that bad, and all of the people out there are like, oh, that could never happen. Yeah, we're in a different. Yeah, fuck off. You don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
Right.
It could happen to anyone at any time.
Right.
Jesus.
So you did a video about the 2 women rangers that made it through.
Oh yeah. Oh God damn it. Yes, that one pissed me off because.
And you did it well. It was a great video, right? And you definitely laid your experience versus their experience. You had your own intel. We all know why they passed Ranger camp. There's no secret.
They got babied. They were coddled and babied and giving more chances than a male was allowed. And they took a lot of the events out of Ranger School, which caused a lot of injuries. So these women wouldn't get hurt. Mm-hmm. Like when I went through, dude, hand to hand, you lose like 15% of everyone because they get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And the jumps, the damn obstacle courses, the patrolling at night, no sleep. I mean, it fucking sucked. Ranger School was one long, grueling beatdown, and I would never. I don't know if they came up to me and say, "Hey, Pop, you got to do Ranger School again," I'd be like, "Yeah, you can suck my dick. That's not happening." I'm not doing it.
Wait, you did that 35 years ago. It was a different world. I mean, now you're hearing. I was on was it InfoWars channel the other day, and they're saying that these Russian troops are literally some of them are crying. They're not able to adapt to the battlefield. You've been on the battlefield, Pop. You were in Panama. You've been in Iraq. You have been injured. What are your thoughts today about the current state of a male soldier?
Well, first of all, I've watched the quality of the men that were going in the military just erode to the point of ludicrousness. Like people would show up, I'm going to join the army, and they can't do 5 push-ups. They can't even run around the block or do 10 sit-ups.
Right.
I'm sorry. Listen, you have a finite amount of time as a young man to get your body where you want it to be. And that window closes for the most part at 25. All right. So these young men today who are playing all these video games, not doing shit, they're going to wind up, going out into the real world at 19, 20 years old with an Xbox body, which is the body of a 40-year-old man who didn't used to do anything. And it just makes life even harder when you're that goddamn weak. And not to mention, that's just physically weak.
Right.
What about mentally weak?
Right.
If all you do is play video games and, oh, my thumb hurts, dude, the real world doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't give a shit about you. And in fact, Darwin is sitting in the background just waiting to grind you up and mulch you out. So you need to get tough, because when shit gets hard and we're going down that road, you're going to fucking die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If not dead mentally and emotionally. I mean, these kids today, apparently the testosterone of young men resembles testosterone in 60-year-olds.
It's absolutely correct. Yep.
So what are the statistics of male suicide between the ages of 18 and 30?
Oh, shit. It's in that briefing I did at the CME. I mean, it's usually from 15 to 60 is where you have the most suicides taking place.
50 to 60?
15 to 60.
Okay.
And then it ticks up a little bit through the 20s and into the 30s, but it really picks up in the late 30s, 40s, and 50s. So, yeah, and it's sad. I've buried a lot of guys who committed suicide, and a lot of guys who died in mysterious accidents after, a breakup of a relationship and so forth. Like I knew a couple of guys that, crashed their motorcycles and died like a week and a half after getting divorce papers.
Right.
A couple of other dudes, one OD'd on sleeping meds and it didn't leave a note, so it was called accidental. And then one dude just literally give himself alcohol poisoning and expire in his house, and that was accidental as well. But yeah, I mean, men are just getting wiped out, and nobody's talking about it. They're getting fucking wiped out.
No one's talking about it.
And then you try to bring it up, like women, like the feminists out there attack you for being weak, and fuck them. I don't know.
Absolutely. I had a friend that I lived with right when I moved out of the marital home as we were finalizing the divorce. He was younger, about 34, 4 kids, ages 1 to 9 years old, right? Mm-hmm. He couldn't see his kids. They basically extracted everything. He actually was trying to get back into work, living with an older gal just to make ends meet, kind of being her boy toy. But he got notification by the court that he had to go now through structured visitation, right?
Yeah.
So had to have a child welfare person there. He could only do it 1 hour a week. And well, the next night, it was in January, he drove up to the canyon, swallowed a bottle of pills, drank a fifth of vodka, and he froze to death.
Yeah, it's called the moon tan. That's probably one of the ways, if I had to do it, that's what I would do. Want for late night moon tan.
Yeah. And so now, based on that court's decision, he was a nice guy, right? Good guy. Yeah, he had some challenges, but he's working on them. He loved his kids. I saw him in the hot tub. I saw him around the pool. He loved them like no one. They jumped all over him. Uh-huh. And now those 4 kids are fatherless. They're going to be raised by a stepfather, if not as by a single mother. And she went to the funeral.
Oh,
The
no.
wife went to the funeral and got up and this is what she said at the funeral. The last memory I have is when the judge was giving me full custody.
Yeah, I have no idea why his friends didn't monkey stomp her ass. She should have been shitting out her intestines. They should have stomped her so goddamn hard.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
And so that's
that really infuriates me when I hear stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So now that's where we're at. That's the modern man needs. We got to stand up. We've got to push the message. Young guys are reaching out to me. They're reaching out to you. They're reaching out to lots of folks. They're looking for direction. They're looking for guys to tell them, "Hey, we've been through the divorce courts, Pop. You've gone as like I did. You had, you've been there. I've been there. There's been false allegations. The Popo showed up. We know what we're talking about. We're not trying to tell kids don't do it because we're hurt. We're not hurt and bitter. We're realistic. We actually see what reality you will get if you cohabitate, marriage, or have kids."
Yeah, and I've had that. Like I've had these discussions with a lot of women, and then the minute I would go, start using logic and reason, the stats of what actually happens in divorce court, they pull back and like, "Who hurt you?" And I'm like, wait, whoa, wait a minute. So you think that my feelings that I may or may not be feeling at this moment have any impact on the reality on the fucking ground? Are you just trying to get me, blame and shame me to shut up so I don't talk about this horrible shit? Or do you genuinely believe that? Because if you do, you're a fucking idiot.
Right. Yeah. I tell guys, you want to spend upwards, literally, enough to buy a brand new Porsche just to get what's fair. This is where you have to spend money, and the time away and the anxiety and the missed work has nothing to do with the bills you pay every month.
Yep. Yeah, my ex-wife killed my dog, man. I mean, she went full psyop on me. That was fucked up. And she did that because I filed for divorce first, and I had a lot of reasonable shit in there. I wasn't being an asshole. But I got to see the paperwork that her attorney filed because her attorney filed it 15 minutes after mine.
Wow.
And she wanted me out of the house, supervised visitation. I mean, every fucked up thing you could talk about was in there. And then since mine was filed first, I went away to Pennsylvania, Fort Indiantown Gap to do I was running a 1.5 battalion of soldiers through heavy and medium machine gun ranges. I was gone for just shy of 3 weeks. I come back, my dog's not there, and I say, "Hey, where's Ranger?" And she looked me right in the face and said, "I told you I didn't want you living here." She wanted me to haul off and stomp her monkey ass so she would get the automatic win. And then I brought it up in court, hey, she killed my dog and nobody gave a fuck. But I know if she had a dog and I disappeared the dog, I'd be getting hammered.
You'd be locked up.
Yeah. It is fucked up, man. Yeah.
And I look back now and you go through that red pill rage, right? You get upset. There's things about your reality versus fantasy, your perception. I look back now and I think to myself, I got a great gift from her, which was if I was still in that marriage, number one, she'd police me in front of the kids and I'd be miserable. And so guys have got to look at the fact that, we were talking earlier, if you get divorced, you forget about her, right? It's going to take time, but you forget about her and move on. You don't give her power anymore. Too many men are giving their relationships and women this enormous amount of power. They pedestalize them. They put them on they're like princesses. And what's the reality, right?
Yeah.
What's the reality when a woman decides she doesn't like you anymore? That she wants nothing to do with you. She wants your kids away.
Yeah. Literally the system, all she's got to do is raise a couple red flags and they can be completely false, and the system will shut you down. They take away your kids, they impound your money, they can make you homeless. You can wind up going to fucking jail and have to fight false allegations. And that's one of the reasons why I came up with I'm doing a webinar course to teach young men out there about administrative violence and how to use the very bureaucracy that the women and the judges use to destroy man's life. You can actually use that same bureaucracy against them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you've done some, you went with Paul Elam, right? You did a couple of his. What are the thoughts on that camp within the man?
I have no problem with those guys. They're attacking it, from a, fight it in court kind of thing, and try to pass legislation. Yeah, I respect that. I mean, it is what it is, and all those people are stand-up people. I really can't think of anyone that's in that world that rubs me, the wrong way. I mean, they're all good people.
What do they think about MGTOW and the red pill? They kind of they have, they definitely, I see pieces of that within that group, but what are their thoughts on guys like us? And
yeah. Listen, you got to, like, the red pill encompasses pretty much everyone on that side of fight. Okay, then you have the MGTOW, or the guys who just like, I'm doing my own thing. I don't need women in my life to certain degrees, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. I did it myself for almost 8 years. And but the thing is the MGTOW is growing, not because people are advertising it or there's actual leaders out there. It's just people reacting to the reality on the ground, people making logical decisions. I watched my grandfather, my father, my friends get fucked in this bullshit. I don't want to participate. Maybe they had a couple of negative interactions as well, or they get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And like me, I literally saw how the real world was by how I was treated in the fucking divorce court.
Mm-hmm. I like to say the red pill is the reality versus the fantasy. When you truly wake up, you truly see what happens in relationships, what happens in government, what happens in education. You start pulling the covers back. That is when the reality versus the fantasy. That's my version of red pill. A man going his own way is a man that decides who gets to fly with him on his plane.
Yeah.
Where he gets to go. He's the captain. He decides
the captain of his own life.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not getting hammered with calendar sabotage. And that's where you have a significant other. You think you have a weekend open and you're just going to relax and do your own thing. And all of a sudden, guess what? There's shit written in the calendar that you have to fucking do.
Right.
Calendar sabotage is another one that fucking bothered me back.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's fucking nuts. And I don't know. I just wish that some of the people who actually write these fucking crazy ass laws get to experience what life is like when they're applied to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's an interesting story. When I was meeting with my lawyer at the very end of the divorce, he was he was the attorney for a judge in the different county that was going through. That was a divorce attorney judge.
Yes.
A divorce court judge. So he was representing a guy that basically stripped men. So he was getting a taste of exactly what he was doing to men.
Yep. And I'm going to be honest, if we continue down the path we are as a country and it turns into a two-way rifle range, a lot of those individuals that were responsible for this shit are going to pay dearly. I will not participate in that, but I will not lift a finger to stop it.
Yeah, and I'm just surprised that it hasn't happened 25 years ago. It's 30 years ago. So military divorce, military infidelity is through the roof. I remember going through counseling with the ex. At the very end, she tried to give the old to meeting counseling. But she was a military. She was a woman that she chose her. She was a woman that counseled military couples, and she said it was a 95% divorce infidelity situation on the base. So, and I'm close to
Oh yeah.
Hill Air Force Base.
Yeah. Well, I did 33 years in the service. I've known thousands of individuals. I can only really think of 2 people in 30 some odd years who are still married to their original spouse.
Yeah.
In fact, most of them are divorced and never get remarried.
Yeah.
If they're men.
Yeah.
I'm one of them. I'm never getting married again. Nope. That is not happening.
I think that and it's funny. My parents, I got a couple friends that are married, and it's you've got to find a great woman and just settle down. You've got to get over her, right? And I'm like, I am. I'm deciding my life. I'm the captain of my plane now, and I fly it when I want, where I want, and how I want.
I know. Like these women are. Yeah, I've heard that before too. You just need to get on with your life. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I experienced what the world is really like, but you want me to forget that and jump right back into the same lunacy? No, that is not happening.
Right.
All right. Go find a sucker. I'm not that guy. Bye.
Right. What was harder, landing in Panama and getting run over by a truck, an enemy truck, breaking, having tendon issues, concussion, or going through divorce court?
Well, like I've been asked this before. People are like, what is the worst pain that you ever experienced? It's emotional pain.
Yeah.
Because guess what? You jump out of an aircraft, you break your leg, you go to the hospital, doctor looks at it, take an x-ray. All right, we're going to cast you. You should be good in 3 months.
Right.
You get your heart ripped out through your asshole. There's no test. There's no pills you can take. You don't know how long it's going to last. It could be 8 seconds in real time, or that 8 seconds can last 60 fucking years.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional pain is no joke. And I talk about this in my other book, The Warrior's Way and the Soldier's Soul. Because I can't tell you how many guys have been Dear John'd and fucking just broken by the system. It is savage.
When you were fighting in the countries that you were fighting in, did you have guys getting Dear John'd and divorce papers with you fighting? And what was it like? Did they fight as strong? Where were their heads at?
Well, for instance, the main reason that I got wounded in Iraq is we had a mission going by Ramadi to a forward operating base near there, and one of my team leaders pulled me aside and said one of his soldiers just got Dear John'd, and if I could just go talk to him. And I made it a habit, if I'm going to send people outside the wire to their possible death, that I look everyone in the eye.
Right.
And I remember I looked him in the face, and he just was not in there. And he was a dead stick. I literally like, okay, you're not going on this mission. I'll ride your gun. You just go chill, do what you got to do. And literally, I mean, that is how I wound up on that convoy, to get almost nearly vaporized by a roadside bomb.
Wow. It's happening everywhere. The battlefield. How did you, Pop, when you were going through that emotional pain, what was the number one thing that, if you had to go back and do it again, what helped you the most? This was 2005, 2006. There was no YouTube, or it was just barely. How'd you get through it?
Well, first of all, it was 2006, because I received a very significant TBI in 2004 from the roadside bomb. And I was recovering in 2005 and 2006.
Right.
And it was just one day I woke up, and it was like the whole world was back in focus.
Mm.
and something didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
I had that sinking feeling like, ah, shit, some crazy shit's going on. So I made arrangements. I I remember I went to my special forces unit and I told my team daddy, I'm like, hey, I think my wife is stepping out on me. And he calmly is like, okay, walks me to supply and says, hey, Sergeant Pop's having cheating wife issues. Give him the kit. And I'm like, okay. And literally, I signed a hand receipt for like $500,000 or $600,000 of this high speed spy gear. And I mean, I'm talking like the laser beam that you can hear shit through windows. Intercepting cell phones. I literally had a defense satellite and I tracked my car from space.
Jeez.
I like, and when I confronted her, I had the whole fucking deal, man. And then it went to shit. Divorce was finalized, I think, at the end of 7, early 08. And I mean, and I made sure I wasn't like, people are like, well, now that just let it be. And I'm like, Now, if I'm going to eat the bowl of shit, I'm going to eat the whole goddamn bowl at once because I don't want to get, you have to eat a bunch of shit and a couple months later, something else. I find out about something else, have to eat that morsel of shit and have it go on for years. I knew everything up front. The whole fucking disgusting force to Cox she was getting run through her. I knew the whole deal, and it made it easier for me. It did.
She was collecting cocks like Pokemon cards.
Very insane. It was unrecoverable because I'm like, well, if she just had an affair with one guy, maybe I can we can still make this thing work. But once I found out the gravity of the situation, it was unrecoverable.
Yeah. Well, the same thing happened in my life. It started with emotional affair, and she was having an affair probably years before I even found out with somebody or something, an emotional, mental. Anyhow, it is what it is. May she find happiness down the road, which I know that it's going to be very difficult. But it is what it is. I'm creating my life. I'm moving forward. I'm helping others. I'm doing what I can to contribute.
Yep.
And you are, and we're in a different. The war on men is a very interesting battlefield.
Yeah, and it's like a big propaganda thing now, but it's starting to fall apart because you can't hide the numbers.
Right.
So, and now with this whole trans bullshit, like dudes are like, oh, identify as a woman, show up at a woman's competition, and just crush everyone.
Yep.
Because in reality, men and women are fucking different.
Absolutely.
Physically, mentally.
I got a video taken down because I said men and women were not equal, which is true. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, men and women are not equal.
Men and women should be valued the same, but they are not equal because they're built differently.
Right.
That's just it.
Yeah, the whole equality thing. I always ask a feminist, hey, we're equal, right? Absolutely. I said, well, why don't you pick me up and walk me 15 steps? What? And, I'll pick you up and walk you 15 steps, 250-pound fatty. But it's reality, right? It's you can stop them in their tracks easily, but feminism has lied to them, and, we don't need to go down that. I hate giving any sort of attention to the feminists or libtards, right? Any of my attention that goes that route. It's all about strength. A strong man goes conservative. He's a creator. A weak man is a liberal who blames and praises. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, the weak become socialist.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody else give it to me, yeah. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a guy. I was in Guatemala over Thanksgiving, and had a friend. I'd still been friends with him for 10, 15 years. He was a guy that was into fight. He was into MMA and all that jazz, and he fought, but total liberal, right?
Uh-huh.
So he sent me a message over Thanksgiving, and he said, "Look, I know you voted for Trump." I said, "I didn't vote for Trump once. I voted twice, right?"
Uh-huh.
And he said, I'm not friends with any guys that vote Trump. See you later. I need to axe everyone out of your life." And I'm thinking to myself, great, perfect, right? I
Yeah.
don't need to be around those types. And it's just interesting, the dynamic of guys that are liberal and weak, but they appear strong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, there's some people out there that ride that fence pretty good. But yeah, most of the liberal fucking individuals in my life, I fucking cut them away. I have no use for somebody that is that mentally weak and won't stand for anything but fall for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't need that in my life, because every person, you are the sum of the closest half dozen people in your life.
Right, absolutely.
And make sure that half dozen people in your life are strong people, and you yourself will learn through example and be strong right alongside them. And the same applies if they're weak.
What do you tell the guy that's going through years of red pill rage? You know, he's decided that obviously he sees what reality is, but he's still given attention to past experiences that are in a way slowing him down. What do you tell those guys?
Well, I tell them that the rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield.
It's a perfect analogy.
I mean, and I understand. I mean, I'm still pissed off about shit too, and I probably will be for the rest of my life. And that's just, I mean, that's just how I operate. I perform better in conflict environments. So,
Yeah, and that, you know, we're all we might get triggered by a memory that pops up or a dream or something. And I'm not telling guys to say, hey, you can't be angry or frustrated, but don't let that stop you, right? Allow that energy. What's a great example? The rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield by significant. It's still in the background. You still notice it, but straight ahead is where we got to get going. And you know, there's always going to be a new content creator that pops up, and he starts talking about hypergamy and you know, she's not yours, it's just your turn, and female,
totally,
which is great because guys, there's tons of guys coming into this. Greg Adams, you were on Greg Adams' podcast a while back. He talked about this. You know, he spends 30 hours streaming every week, but he says, look, you guys are getting mad at me, but new guys are coming in and learning this all the time. One of the biggest reasons, I think Eddie A said this in the comment, a lot of guys find MGTOW red pill thinking because they're looking for ways to get their ex back. They're looking to restore their marriage after she cheated. And then they like, oh my gosh, there's
no going back.
5,000 guys that feel the same way, that have had the same situations occur in their life.
Yeah. And here's another thing is, even if you say you find a good woman and you marry her and you have your kids, do you have any idea how many married men, if you ask them, would you get married if you could do it all over? They would look you right in the face and go, fuck no. Why the hell would anyone line up for that willingly? I mean, I was a complete idiot myself because I bought into the whole blue pill bullshit, and I paid dearly, and I almost paid the ultimate price.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been blue pilled at some point in our lives, and we've passed through those pastures, and some still are there. And the reality is, guys will ask me, well, how do I get over the breakup? You have to literally, you separate the reality versus the fantasy. The human mind is very fascinating. As you know, if you can't accept the situation, your mind goes to great lengths to try to fix the situation. I was told this by a clinical psychologist. This person had said, look, if you want to get over something, you have to accept it. In other words, literally say to yourself, I accept what happened to me. If you don't, your mind will try to fix what's going on. So if you don't accept a breakup or a divorce or what happened to you, your mind's going to continue to look for ways to fix what's in front of you. So this is why guys pedestalize their exes. She cheated on me because I didn't show her emotional support. I didn't love her the way she needed to. It's my fault she cheated. They actually apologize for her action. So I tell guys, look, you got to accept it first and foremost. You got to look at the reality versus fantasy. The fantasy is in your mind of that woman that you completely have fabricated, but the reality is she cheated on you. She's alienating your kids. She threw you under the bus. She lied to you. She disrespects you. That's the reality. And then you got to write your pros and cons list. And this is what I did for me. I wrote a pro and cons list. I was very generous on the pros, beautiful, very nice, gave me a nice present. But the cons were 5-1. And every time I thought about that situation or the divorce or her, I'd read my list. So it'd mentally get in here. And then I was able to.
I mean, I used to handle it a little differently. But, I'm an Army guy. I literally would like walk up to some of these dudes that are going through shit. I'm like, all right, well, we're leaving in 3 days. So I have your shit packed and I give them the deal. And I'm like, oh, by the way, just so you know, by the time the tarmac is free of our aircraft, your wife is going to have a butthole in her mouth, ass, and vagina. So, yeah, just accept that. I'd have guys like, what? No, she's different. I'm like, stop talking. That's not how the real world works. You will find out in short order. And most of those guys, you got divorced or shit was going south with their significant other while they were deployed. It happens all the time.
I think there's value in being around guys that are going through that in the military. At least they can help each other. It's almost like a makeshift MGTOW camp, if you think about it. They're all experiencing the same thing. Their wives or girlfriends are cheating on them, spending their money. Apparently, I heard a story that when guys would be deployed in San Diego, on the ship, 5,000 women would be in the bars that night that they departed.
Oh, yeah, that happens all the time. They even have some military, Army bases, Marine bases, Air Force. If a large group of men leave and get deployed, you can almost, it's like clockwork. The bars will be abnormally high with women hanging out there.
Yeah.
And they're cruising for some new piece of diaca.
What's that? What's the best thing you learned in the military in your 33 years?
How to deal with pain. Like literally, life is pain. And when you're going to have pain because you are alive.
Right.
And when you get hit with the pain, can you keep moving forward, or are you going to shut down and quit? That in a nutshell is probably the greatest lesson I've ever learned in all of the crazy shit I've done with my life thus far. Is life is you're gonna get hit with jabs, take some right crosses, maybe you'll lose a tooth, emotionally you have your fucking, heart ripped out your ass. But life is a journey. Okay. It's not the destination. And granted, if you want to have a good journey, you're going to have to be able to move through the pain. That's it.
What's the craziest thing that happened to you as a Ranger?
Oh, shit. Well, we jumped into Panama, and I told that story on my channel, and that was crazy. And then later on, years later, at the golf club on Selfridge Air National Guard Base, there was a guy playing golf in retired Air Force. It turns out he was the pilot of one of the aircraft that carried us over Rio Hato. And he's like, oh, you guys thought you jumped at 500 feet? No. We turned the light green at 435 feet.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably the craziest shit right there. We did a lot of missions in Iraq. I did a lot of counter drug stuff in South America. I'm under a pretty significant non-disclosure agreement for that stuff, so I don't really talk about it much, other than the fact I was there. A couple stories, and then I would say it would be the Panama.
Yeah, that story about the getting hit by the enemy truck is
oh my god,
something
that's like, you got to take the pain. That fucking shit hurt like hell.
That was during that was during, wow, who was the president that they blasted didn't they blast like heavy metal music during that Panama deal?
Well, yeah,
Was that before you, or
they're
was it
trying to capture Noriega.
Noriega? So you were there during Noriega.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Haven't been to Panama, Guatemala, Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico. I hear it's great though.
Yeah, I've been all through South America, and my experiences for the most part were good. A lot of bad shit happens down there.
Yeah. You were, yeah. I spent some time in Cartagena, and that was Pablo's very favorite resort where he'd take his family. But interesting time. You got a very just your story, Terrence, is just it's cool. And then you came back and you fought. Did you fight combat fight what kickbox during the military, or was that after?
Oh, no. It was basically I got off active duty because I wanted to go to college, get married, have a family. And during those years, I competed in kickboxing. I did full contact, international rules. I tried boxing, which I did not do well at that because, there's some guys that do that start at like 9 years old. And they just outclassed me.
Right.
But yeah, I pretty much competed from 22 to 31. I'm a high functioning individual. So during those years, I was going to college full time, working 3 different jobs, and then I got married, had kids, worked as a mortgage banker, financial planner, all while still competing as a kickboxer. All that time in the gym, all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating what a man can do, or a woman, if they put their mind to something, the discipline necessary. And I think that's today's modern young man needs to be taught that, right? Discipline, being strong. Guys can't even go 10 seconds without getting a text message from somebody. They freak out. That's what it's like. We had to learn discipline. There was no internet back then. There was no, we had no call waiting. We had busy signals. We had a girlfriend, and Friday she gave you a note, you jumped on the bus, and then you had to go through 72 hours to wait to see her, talk to her again, because, the phone was tied up, or you what have you. So guys today are literally feminized. If you think about it,
they are.
They're not strong.
Absolutely correct. And that is going to be a bad thing moving forward.
What's your thoughts on what's happening in the overseas? Where do you see that going from your military experience? And
I think there's a couple different possibilities. One, that you can have the NATO nations pony up and basically enforce a no-fly zone over Ukraine. And then it would be up to Putin or not if he's going to actually use a nuclear warhead. If he does decide to, fire nukes, we're all fucked. And then we will swiftly retaliate against Russia. And, my suspicions are China will get it too. So it could be just a huge clusterfuck if that comes to pass. Or they'll put up the good fight, and Russia will temporarily win over Ukraine, and then Ukraine will be embroiled in a civil war, insurgent type conflict for years to come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I envision right there. That's probably the top thing right there.
Do you have confidence in our leadership with military?
No. No. I'm no. Listen, I've said this many times. So this is nothing new. In my 33 years, I've come across 12 officers who are worth a shit. Half of them are now dead, and 4 of the ones that are alive are retired. So there's only 2 left in the system. and they'll be gone relatively soon.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the generals, everyone thinks, oh, he's a general, blah. Listen, for you to get up to that level in the system that we have, you have to be a dick-sucking, backstabbing, buddy-fucking motherfucker. And every single one of those generals across all the services, in my opinion, it's exactly what they are. When the rubber hits the road, they're absolutely fucking worthless.
Right. Well, you were back during those days. The general back, was that Schwarzkopf? Who was the?
Yeah, we had Schwarzkopf and Powell.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Strong men, right?
They're okay. I didn't really like them, but I didn't really have a lot of face-to-face time with generals when I was just an E5. You don't talk to generals. You talk to sergeant majors.
But now they're all woke, so
yeah, it's just worthless. Yeah.
Well, hey, look, appreciate you being here. You're a huge voice within helping guys. One last thing before we wrap this up. One last Terrence Popp principle before we leave.
Well, here's one that I always keep in the back of my mind, and this pertains to red pill rage. No one will ever punish you for being angry, but if given enough time, your anger, sure enough, will punish you.
Well said. Appreciate it, Pop. Guys, check out his channel. Read his book. What the name of those two books?
Oh, well, let's see. There's The Warrior's Way and The Soldier's Soul, and that's like a philosophy book. And then I write The Jericho Files, which is a fiction book about a psychic who hunts serial killers and puts them in the dirt. How many people do you have watching?
78, 80.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, good. I think this is going to help somebody. And that's the whole reality is I could care less about money, subs, all that crap. If it helps one person, that's all that matters. Just like you did in the military, helping those guys that were getting dear John, keeping people above, keeping their mortal coil still existing today. That's where we're at. Pop, I'm going to remove you. Thank you again. I'm going to keep the stream going, but I appreciate your time. And we'll see you in Chicago.
All right. Thank you.
All right. See ya. There you have it, guys. The man, the myth, the legend, Terrence Popp. His story is fascinating. If you've ever, if you know about him, I didn't know he was raised by a single mom. I didn't know he lived in the conditions he did, and he made something about his life. Simple as that. I mean, the discipline, just what he did in Panama, that story, I'll have to read it, but the story was let's see, Purple Heart 2 times, combat infantry badges, airborne wings. Entered the Army as an infantryman in 86. After 5 months, he was a top 50 caliber gunner. One of the 3 enlisted soldiers to be sent to airborne school from the Straight Leg Infantry Division. Since the closing of the Vietnam conflict, he was wounded in Panama while involved in an operation. He was run over by an enemy truck within 30 seconds of landing on the drop zone and still fought all night with a dislocated right hip, torn knee tendons, and a 3rd-degree sprained ankle, not to mention the concussion sustained when struck by a vehicle moving at speed. Wounded also by an IED in Iraq. He was called a murderer and assassin in court, and his wounds were used as a basis to justify the loss of his children. In 2005, Popp was a man leading 159 soldiers in combat. By 2007, he was living out of his car, homeless. He was written off by his wife, his country, his family, and had to come to grips that as a man, he was totally and completely expendable. He spent over $20,000 of his own money for the rehabilitation, equipment, and therapy to fix his mind. So, definite man of somebody we can learn from. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring him on was number one, I respect the hell out of him and his work, and I think it's funny as hell. And he was very influential in helping Rad get through a lot of issues. But he's unapologetic he believes in unapologetic masculinity. And it's great getting other views that have been around, and how you bounce back from that, what life throws at you, right? You got to accept where you're at in life. You've got to decide which way you want to go. And I think that was great. His analogy, which was the rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield. I mean, that was huge. And if you don't punish your anger will punish you. Just solid words of wisdom. I appreciate everybody being here today, and being part of the chat. I can't get to everyone in the chat, but it's pretty fascinating. The comments that were shared. Shout out to our veterans. Shout out to our truckers, and shout out to the folks that are literally helping other people by sharing experience and being there for one another. And that's truly why I do my channel. I'm sure, Pop, when he does his speaking conventions, it's all about male self-deletion. And he did it at the Voice for Men. He did it at Donovan Sharp's group. I think he did it at 21 Studios, but very passionate about keeping men alive based on what they've gone through. And 425 men who literally were on their last lifeline have reached out, and he was able to keep them, above the dirt here. It's legit. Men can be destroyed so quickly that it's. I hope they find more and more channels, and everyone that's out there that's got a channel. Shout out to everybody. Because you're doing something, you're helping. And everybody that doesn't have a channel, that is always here in the chat, put something up. You never know who's going to email you at the middle of the night and say, I need to talk to you. Can I talk to you? I've had several guys reach out to me. I'm sure everyone has that has a channel. And it helps. Then there's guys going through breakups that don't understand breakups. They don't understand what's been going on. They don't know how to get past it, and that's when the sadness happens. So it is what it is. This is why we do it, and I appreciate everybody that was part of this chat. Rebel against defeat, chase excellence, masculinity, and men first. I'm out.